good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully everybody's having a happy Friday. It's a little bit cold and rainy here in Melbourne. Not too bad, though. We like to just start out these things just by saying if everybody could just put a little text in the chat box just to make sure everybody can hear and see us. Everything's working okay. We want to make sure everybody that's attending can get full benefit of all of this. Agnes says all good. Yep. Craig says all good. Chris, if you're there, just type into the box all good or something. Chris says all good. Okay, Laura, we're sweet. We're ready to go. So,
okay, great.
Welcome, everyone. For those of you that know me, my name is Bruce from the Joinery Coach, and we do these live expert panel sessions every now and then. And we're just so stoked and happy to have Laura on board today. First question, Laura, how are you feeling? I know 2 weeks ago we tried to do this and you were not well, so how
I have my voice.
You can speak now.
Yes, so no, I'm good.
It's always trouble when the guest speaker can't speak.
Yeah.
So today's going to be really fun. I've really been looking forward to this. For those of you that are on the call today, no doubt you've read something about Profit First, you've heard something about it, and probably know a little bit, and you're here, I would guess, to learn a little bit more. And that's why we've got the fantastic Laura Elkaslassy on board. I said that right, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Practicing. So, Laura, maybe you could just introduce yourself and give us a little bit of a quick breakdown on yourself first, and then maybe we can jump into Profit First after that.
Yeah, sure. So I know we've also got a couple of Profit First professionals on the call as well. So shout out to you guys. And if anyone's needing assistance with Profit First or wanting more information, then there's some great people that we can hook you up with. So a bit about me. I am a mother to start with, and I also am the CEO of Profit First Australia, as well as running my own bookkeeping and consulting business as well. Right. And shout out to Chris as well. Hi, Chris. Thanks for making it. I'm basically on here today to explain a little bit about Profit First, and the exciting thing is that we now have a HQ in Australia. So before then, all of the training and information originated and still comes from the US, but we now have, I guess, a body here in the country because we're really wanting to spread the Profit First word and get Profit First professionals, into businesses, turning it around, because we can always assist with increasing profits, paying yourself, making sure that the stress is gone when it comes from, paying tax and GST and that sort of thing. So, yeah, so I'm really excited to be here. So thank you, Bruce.
Oh, you're very welcome. And yeah, profit's one of those necessary evil things, isn't it? Maybe it's
I don't think it's evil.
Not so evil, no. I've got a few questions here from people. So I thought maybe what we do, if that's okay, is we just start out with a few questions.
Sure.
And just one question. I won't say who sent these in, but I'll just rattle off some of the questions. Sure. So someone asked, just tell a little bit more about the Profit First methodology. And is it really as easy as paying your profit first? Is it, because when it's explained, it always sounds, oh yeah, just profit away. Is it actually that easy?
Okay, so the concept and the system is easy. The difficulty is sticking to it when it comes to implementing Profit First. And there is a lot more involved than just taking Profit First in terms of, yes, you can pull profit out of the business, have cash there, but if you're not looking at the big picture, then you can definitely, it's not as simple as that. That said, it is based on a simple system, based on the envelope system, where each bank account or envelope has a purpose. Right. So you have, your money set aside for your GST and tax, money set aside to pay yourself, and as well as having an actual cash profit account, which most business owners that I know do not have. And so there's more to it, but it is definitely based on a long-standing envelope system, which, if implemented, really changes a business.
And I understand that a lot of the methodologies are kind of founded around another law that I like to talk about as well. And it's kind of cool because it kind of married in when I learned about Parkinson's law a few years ago, and then I started reading about Profit First. Well, that's really cool. It actually applies to finance as well, because when we talk about production scheduling, and we talk about trying to do something in 2 hours rather than 4 hours, it kind of fits the same thing. Can you kind of talk a little bit about how Parkinson's law kind of fits into the profit first methodologies?
Absolutely. So Parkinson's law originally, if you're unfamiliar of what it's about, is basically that whatever time you have, that time will be filled.
Yes.
So as you said, in the joinery industry, then of course that is completely relevant. Same with time, like you think you're going to complete, let's say a task in a week, that's how long it's going to take. If you've got an hour, generally speaking, you can get it done in an hour. So the same principle applies to money. So business owners are used to having one bank account, really.
Yes.
And so you see if you have money in it, and so you'll spend all of that money because that's what you have. And so the principle of Profit First is basically saying, well, rather than having one big plate, and again, it's Parkinson's law applies to health and weight loss too. You know, if you've got one big plate, you're going to eat everything off that, or you're going to spend all your money in your bank account. If you separate them out into multiple bank accounts, then you will only spend, and you can spend everything that's in there, but it has a purpose.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's a really cool analogy. Like when I read the book, it was Michael talked about how, you know, the size of the dinner plates that have grown over the years probably has something to do with the obesity problem we have right now.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Pretty cool. So if someone wanted to get started with Profit First, what would be the best place to start? What would be the first thing?
Well, definitely read the book or listen to the Audible version of Profit First. And then I know that Profit First Australia and also all of our Profit First professionals have plenty of free resources available to people wanting to kind of get that next bit of information, whether it's that instant assessment that you do on your own business based on the principles of Profit First, or you know, which bank accounts to set up and that sort of thing. So that's probably the first step. If you've done that, then it's a matter of setting up the bank accounts based on the different, I guess, plates that you need for your business to run.
Yes. And did you have something you wanted to show us as far as a visual of that sort of thing?
Yes, I do.
You want to jump into that right now?
Yeah, no worries. I will share my screen.
I just mentioned at this stage too, if anybody has any questions, please feel free just to type into the chat box. It's an open forum. Fire away. Any questions you have, I will monitor the questions and allow Laura to do what she does and ask her as you type them into the box.
Okay, great. Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah, I can see your screen beautifully. I hope everybody else can. If everybody can see Laura's screen, just type in a G2G or whatever, just to let us know that you can see that big blue stripe of Profit First on your screen. Yep, says Craig.
Awesome. Great. Okay, because I can't see the chat in this view, so that's why that's good. All right, so Profit First. Basically, what we're used to seeing is the accounting formula that everyone kind of goes about, which is sales minus profit equals your, sales minus expenses equals your profit. So you're going to have all your sales, your income that comes in, you pay all your bills, and then whatever's left over is your profit. Well, that's an afterthought, and it is also, you know, that end of financial year. So this is a really timely time that we're speaking about this. When it's like, well, what profit? When you look at the P&L.
Yeah, it's not in my bank account.
Yeah, exactly. Where is the cash? And so it's very much an accounting formula. And what Profit First actually does is it switches the formula around. You're basically saying if you have your sales and you take your profit or allocate your profit to your profit account, then whatever's remaining can be spent on your expenses. So it assists with ensuring that all of your bills are paid and that you're not overspending and that you're aware of what money is actually available for specific things. So it's a little switch, but it makes a huge difference. We just spoke about Parkinson's law.
Yes.
So here is just an idea of, I guess, a visual of what it can look like. And it relates to, as we spoke about, the buffet where we go out and we eat everything that we have in sight versus our small plates where you can only have one or two things. The same applies to the cash that we have in our bank accounts.
So it forces frugality.
Yes, it really does. And it removes temptation.
It's really interesting because when we've talked about this over the last almost 6 months now, what occurred to me was a lot of people who, let's say if you came into money, but you never really had it to begin with, a lot of people will think, well, I never really had any money, so therefore I must be frugal because we're getting by, right? The interesting thing is when a lot of those sorts of people who win the lottery, millions of dollars, they blow it within the first 6 months. So they never really learned how to be frugal. So this is actually teaching you how to be frugal with your money. Not so much that it's going to cripple you or hurt you, but it actually teaches you the laws of being frugal, doesn't it?
It does, and it also pinpoints the pain points that you may have in your business that you may not be aware of because you have other money there that may be going to GST or tax, but it's in your account, so you feel like you have the money to spend it.
Right.
And so problems go unnoticed for a long period of time because you do have some cash. But then you're like, well, then where did it go? And so it's definitely pinpoints that as well as keeps you in control of what you're spending.
Fantastic.
And so, as I said, you need to actually, having these separate bank accounts gives your money purpose. So you have your GST, your tax, your expenses, the profit, your own pay for all the work that you put into your business, as well as you can see here, the serving trays. You can see that you've got the income, profit, owner's pay, tax, and expenses.
Yep.
And so this is just a bit of a breakdown, general rule based on the book. So, and that's why we have Profit First professionals, because business here in Australia is very different and structure comes into play, whether you've got a company and trust and all of that. I'm not going to go into too much detail in that, but that's why we have Profit First professionals on board, because it really does vary your industry, what you're earning, how you're set up, these percentages, but this will give you an idea of the break up of the different, bank accounts.
So you're saying if you have a revenue range of up to $250,000,
yes,
you should put at least 5% of all of that revenue off to a separate account. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And 50% of that should go for owner's pay.
That's right, because it's based on the theory that if you are at the $200 or up to the $250,000 mark, then you're most likely a one person with a team member and that sort of thing. So the structure and I guess the amount of work going into your business is you. So therefore you should be compensated for that.
Yeah, totally. Okay, I get it.
Yeah. And so like the tax percentage, you can see here, it's listed as 15%, and that's a great starting point. But as you earn more and if you have a company and trust structure, then that actually needs to increase.
So here's a question to everybody on the line right now. You can see the revenue targets at the top, and you can see the owner's pay, because that's probably what everybody's kind of focusing in on. I pay myself. Put yourself into those categories and just give me a little bit of feedback. Are you paying yourself anywhere close to that percentage that you see aligned with your revenue? Just a simple yes or a no. Just type it into the box. Let me know how you're going.
It's a great question. And my question is also, expense-wise, are your expenses at that percentage?
Yep. Craig says yep. Chris says no. Angus, Kelly, Najma, let's hear from you. Let me know where you sit with all of this. I think for a lot of people, 50% would be it'd be a great target. But tell me, Kelly, or Laura, the percentage that changes as it goes across when you've got down to zero, if you're 10 to 50 million, why does that have a zero on it?
That's due to the fact that generally speaking, you are on payroll, so you go into the expenses portion of the business. So you're not actually taking money out as an owner. And then, of course, the profit percentage is higher, so you get dividends and that sort of thing. Okay, so do you have a bit of a target as to what revenue point a business should be at for the owner to go on PAYG, to go on actual drawings? I think it relates more to the company structure, or the structure of how the person is running. As a sole trader, then it's not really relevant. As a company, even if it is, you're not at that 50% or even 35% mark, you need to be on payroll because of the implications of not paying tax throughout the year and that sort of thing there. So again, it's slightly different here in Australia, but that's kind of the general rule of thumb.
Okay. I imagine you kind of tweak these numbers a little bit to suit the business and make it work for them.
Absolutely. These are just general guideline percentages to give you an idea, and it starts the thought process of going, all right, well, where do I stand in relation to these percentages, and do I feel it's realistic?
Okay.
As well, and what about this? And it makes you question how you're running your business.
Okay. That's great.
And so it's just another visualization. I just took the first bracket. You got 100% of your income that comes in, and then you put those percentages away to those different allocations.
Yeah. So this is representing bank accounts that you can access and look at.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the income comes in, you allocate your profit, owner's pay, tax, and then expenses.
Right.
And then there's also like another way to do it, especially for smaller businesses as well, is that if you maybe feel like your financials are messy and that sort of thing, you can actually reverse engineer your percentages to get an idea of what you should be at. That said, I highly recommend getting assistance with someone, a first professional, to really hone in on the exact percentages, because it makes a huge difference. And then it's flexible.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as you said, you pointed out before, you're like, 50% for owner's pay, for example, seems like a great goal.
Yes.
Well, Profit First is not okay, I'm going to implement it and let's just like change everything all at once. It is an actual, you need a rollout plan. You need to do it in stages, especially if your spending habits are not what you, what they should be in terms of the percentage that you'd like to get to, or you're not allocating enough tax and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, so you take it in stages.
Okay, so you've got the implementation of it sort of is comfortable and not too painful.
That's right. It definitely takes time, and that's one of the big mistakes that I find with businesses that start to implement Profit First themselves. They go, right, I'm going to completely implement it, and they end up with like putting 10% profit and paying themselves, and then they're like, well, I've got no money for this, because it's a change, it's a behavioral change as well.
Yeah. And a lot of them probably weren't making 10% profit in the first place. So
correct.
So essentially they've just taken away all their operating capital.
That's right.
Okay.
And I guess as you said when we first started, is profit. We're talking all about profit. And so how does the profit account actually work in Profit First? So I get asked this question all the time, and I love the profit account. Is my favorite account, not surprisingly, but for a number of reasons, because it's not just that you put the money there and it sits there and it gets reinvested in the business and that's something. It actually has a purpose. So what happens is you allocate the money to the profit account, and then every quarter you can distribute that. And the way that it should work is, if you have debt, so if you have business debt or even personal debt or anything like that, then up to 99% of what's in your profit account can go towards that debt.
Okay.
Pay that down. So it's like you continue your installments that you're paying through your expense account, but every quarter, whatever's in your profit account, up to 99%, if you're really wanting to do a debt busting thing, you put that towards your debt, and then that 1% has to go to you as the owner for fun.
So if you had, for example, if you're a business owner, let's say you're doing $1.5 million a year, a reasonably small business, and you're paying yourself a wage, and you've got some profit coming into the business, but you've got an overdraft that has crept up a little bit high. And would you suggest that profit for a period of time would be used just to pay down the overdraft, just to keep, not only have the business and the, that sort of thing, get it down, but maybe this amount would also be used to pay that debt down as well?
Yes, and so that's one of the goals that you've got to look at, because everyone wants to kind of get out of debt that they're in, especially in the business. So the profit account would go into, that's like the number one thing that you'd start with that money. Yeah,
cool. Okay, that's great.
Keeping into account that a portion of that money has to go to you, because we all know what it feels like when we're paying down debt and we feel like we're working really hard and we're not getting anything ourselves.
Totally.
Yeah. And so let's say you're in a position that you don't have debt and you've got this profit account, again, there's the next purpose of it is to put 50% away in a vault account so that you don't spend that money and you accumulate a buffer up to 3 to 6 months of operating expenses, so that if something is to go wrong, hopefully it never does, then you have the money to be able to cover that, and then the other 50% goes to you as the business owner.
Yeah, nothing better than having cash to spend when you want it, is there?
Absolutely.
Cool.
And then, so that's what we're just talking about. If you use the profit account to pay down the debt, then you can really make a huge difference to paying it down using the snowball effect as well, which I don't know if people are familiar with.
So is the snowball effect part of your freeze it, crush it, and do it behaviorally?
Yes. So basically what people try to do is they look at how much interest they're paying and, how much extra money that they're going towards their debt. Instead, the snowball effect looks at your smallest amount of debt first up to your biggest, regardless of what the interest rates are.
Yeah.
Reason being is, as humans, if we don't start to see the debt going down, we feel like it's just not happening.
Yeah.
We're never going to pay it off.
Yeah.
So if you start with your smallest debt first, then you immediately start to see that that's reducing, and then you can clear that, and then you move on to the next one. And so you've already started behaviorally kind of going, okay, yes, this is working.
Okay. Are you going to, I don't know if now's the right time, but you're going to talk about those accounts that we shouldn't touch, and you're going to, I don't want to jump ahead too far.
We definitely can go into that. I didn't have that on this presentation, but we can absolutely go into the tax and the profit account, so that it stays away and out of reach from people.
Well, I really like how Mike explained that in the book, how of course it's your money and it's your bank account. So if you want to walk 2 blocks to the other bank and get it, you probably could, but you're unlikely to do that. I know for my wife and I, when we had a separate account that we couldn't access and money was just sort of being drip fed into it, after a few years we went, holy crap, we can take a holiday somewhere. And it was a really nice surprise, right? And we didn't actually even see it missing after a period of time. So I like that. It's probably a little different analogy, but I like that part of the Profit First methodology where we're suggesting very strongly that you don't just have carte blanche access to every single account, because then you'll be robbing from Peter to pay Paul all the time. And that's probably what's happening now anyway.
Correct. And so you really don't want that to happen. And the thing is, implementing Profit First, if you're only implementing the theory and not the practice, then the whole, I'm going to move this money from here to there, and then I'll pay it back, and then you never pay it back.
It's just pretty soon you got 5 empty bank accounts.
Pretty much. Yeah. You can do that. So I guess the main accounts are your GST and tax accounts and your profit account. You can have it sitting there for a period of time, but it really should be moved out to a separate bank, so that yes, you're still in a savings account so that you can earn what little interest you can at the banks at the moment, in a separate bank, so that you can't just transfer that money instantly to yourself. Yeah. It either takes a day, or even better, if you can make it credit only, so that you can deposit and then you have to go to the bank.
Yeah, you have to physically
take it out. Yeah. Then that really removes that temptation.
Yeah, cool.
And so, as I said in the very beginning, the Profit First is simplistic in how it is set out, but if you need to stick with it, you need to distribute your money the way, according to your percentages. You need to be willing to adjust the percentages and work with the system, due to the fact that every business is different, and that if you have got huge expenses or big debts and that sort of thing, or you not paying yourself enough, then it's going to take time and adjustments to your percentages to actually get to where you want to be. So absolutely.
So do you think this is probably one of the biggest hurdles small business owners have to get over, is the fact that we have to actually teach ourselves how to manage money better, and just get comfortable with the fact that we can't be using this big number in our bank account all the time. It's actually got to break out and have separate, I suppose, separate purposes for the money that's in there.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the biggest things is, renaming your accounts in your online banking. So it's not just like account. It's actually, income, expenses, GST tax and that sort of thing, so that you can start to really see the point of this and be clear as to what is actually happening with your money.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. And I love the Profit First methodology. I know my grandmother, my grandparents on my mother's side came over from Germany. They actually had those little envelopes. So it really resonated with me how they, how they got through life in the early days was, the little envelopes. It was pretty cool.
Yes.
Do you see businesses setting up bank accounts and then having automatic, because you can make automatic transactions? Is that what people should be expecting, that they're going to have just automatic stuff coming out and going where it should go?
No, unfortunately, it's not set up. It's not set up per dollar amount, which is what you can currently automate in at the bank. That said, I did have a conversation with a Profit First professional, Craig, about this today, about the sweep accounts and percentages, and that's definitely. I know some banks are capable of that, but I don't know what the procedure is and fees around that. Instead, what we do with our clients is that we have like a calculator where you literally put in the amount that's in your income account, and it's got your percentages pre-programmed, and then it tells you what amount you need to transfer. And the reason that it's I personally like that it's not automated is that you actually see what's coming in each time you distribute and where you're putting that money. So you can't turn around and go, oh, I don't know where it went.
Well, there's no learning without action, right? So,
correct.
So that's the learning part of it, and that's really cool. Okay, so let's just say that there's some people on the line today or watching this video at some point in the future going, what would be the first step? So if they contact you, what would they expect to happen in the first period of time and getting on board? What's their expectation set up?
Okay, so in terms of the best place to start is to go to Profit First Professionals website, because there's a find one option there where you go in and you basically tell us what your business is, what's currently happening for you, what you feel your biggest challenge is, and what you need help with. And so then we'll pair you with a Profit First professional that we feel has the expertise in either your field or the particular software, or a mixture of things, location. There's a lot of things that go into it. Then from that step, it's a matter of having a call with a Profit First professional where you can ask all your questions. You can talk about the things that you feel don't quite fit into the general principles of Profit First, or talk about what is your biggest challenge that you're wanting to work on, what is a thing that you're liking about your business, and really kind of getting your head around that. And then from there, it'd be a matter of getting an assessment done on your business.
Okay, yeah.
So that's really where a Profit First professional looks in depth at your financial statements and accounting software to see what's actually going on, but not in run a profit and loss and get the same information as what you could do yourself, but to look at it from a cash flow
or a transactional perspective.
Yeah, transactional, exactly, the ins and outs.
Yeah. Okay.
And to let you know, well, this is actually what's happening with your expenses, and this is the percentage at the moment that you're paying yourself, and here's your tax, etc. And so you immediately can see what's happening right now in your business and where does it stand within the principles, and then of course to be given your target allocations, percentages, and what that rollout plan would look like.
So it sounds to me like something everybody should do.
I would agree with you.
So it's one of those things where you say, right, if I run a business, I want to make more profit. Yes. Do I actually want to have money sitting in an account when the accountant says to me, you made $50,000 worth of profit this year, and you're going, I don't know where it is, but I'm paying tax on it. You actually want to have that $50,000 sitting in an account somewhere. Yes, I do. Okay, that's another tick box. So what do you think the reasons are that more people don't start up, with that frame of mind? What do you think the main objections are that people might have to hesitate with?
I think the first thing is that people are not everyone's aware of Profit First. And so we are on a mission to absolutely spread that information. So thank you, Bruce, for today. But also when we start up a business, we don't actually think about that. People kind of go, right, I'm going to get some income.
Yeah.
And then I got to pay for stuff. And then I'm growing. And so I'll get some staff. And then I've got this, I need this machinery, or I need to do that. And so there isn't that forethought around, everyone that I basically speak to has done the same thing. It's not right or wrong, and there's no judgment around it, but we definitely start a business with the objective to bring money in.
Yeah, yeah.
But we don't really think about, keeping it. And so then so by the time people come to us, it's like, well, I'm feeling the pinch. I'm not quite sure what's happening. I thought I had a really viable business. So this is a really great way to kind of see, well, where you actually stand with the ins and outs of your money.
Yeah. And as you know, my network is the joinery, cabinet making, manufacturing industry.
Yes.
Can you think of any reason why this wouldn't work in our industry? Like there would be any inherent issues within our industry that's unique that we think, that there would be some problems?
So I Profit First would definitely work. The one thing that you need to take into consideration is another bank account, and that is for your materials and subs and costs of goods for your actual jobs.
Right.
Because that's going to be a very big percentage of what your overall revenue is. And so Profit First would need to be done after that money is put aside for your cost of goods and all of that. And so that's a variation that definitely is important. And the amount of times that I've seen someone go, I don't need an actual account as long as I keep that amount of money in the income account.
On the spreadsheet.
Or a spreadsheet. It doesn't work. Just set up a bank account.
Go to the spreadsheet. It's all there.
Exactly.
It's just a spreadsheet.
It's not controlling your money.
Yeah, I get it.
Yes.
So now let's just say that we've got some cabinet makers and joiners that are watching this right now. When someone gets on board with you, give me a little bit of a feel for how it works with either yourself or your Profit First professional that you hook people up with. Does the Profit First professional become part of the team, or is it? And I would imagine it would vary from business to business, but is it typical that the Profit First professional does a lot of work with the new client to begin with, and then they're sort of out and then letting them on their own? Like give me a bit of a feel for the relationship and how that works.
Okay, that's a really great question. So it will depend on the Profit First professional. So when I refer to Profit First professionals, there are sort of three streams. We've got accountants, bookkeepers, and coaches. So if you're let's say paired with an accountant, Profit First professional, then their relationship with you would be varied compared to, let's say, a bookkeeper. So it would be a matter of the Profit First implementation, support, accountability, and that's an ongoing kind of process.
Yes.
And the doing is done by the business owner with the support. They're very much a coaching consulting kind of role.
Right.
However, if you're needing tax advice and tax at the end, and generally speaking, you could have one without the other, then you would get that as well. So there would be another element to that relationship, and that would be, discussed and decided upon at the beginning or as you progress with what you're doing with the Profit First professional.
Right.
And so for example, bookkeepers, and I very much started with my business as a bookkeeper and as well as a Profit First professional, and we're very involved.
Yes.
Because the bookkeeping role is the day-to-day, is the compliance, but also can see what's happening with the business. So you get the Profit First implementation as well as that ongoing day-to-day support. And that's why we like to kind of say you need both a bookkeeper and an accountant, because it's the full suite. And then of course there's the coaches that may or may not have accounting degrees, but really come at it from a very much a consulting, strategic, Profit First approach, more implementation, and yeah, would come at it from that way. And they have their own skills as well. And I guess it could be marketing, it could be, you know, systems and that sort of thing. So that would come into it as well. So it really depends. And that's why we ask those questions when we try to pair you, because it's like, what are you looking for?
Because it's a human change at the end of the day, isn't it? If you can't create that human change, no change will occur.
Correct.
And the other thing I like about Profit First is the way it was explained. And a lot of business owners, you know, probably a lot of people that are watching this today will know, like if we say to you, well, you're looking at your bank account, do you check your bank account? Some of them might check their bank account 4 or 5, you know, multiple times throughout the day. And the question then is why? What are you learning by looking at your bank account? Well, if someone paid me and someone didn't pay me, all that sort of stuff. So it almost becomes this manic obsession with having to check my bank account all the time. And it's that one big amount that's sitting there. And I think the inherent problem with that is that you're not actually getting any information that as a business owner you can use to make a business decision, not good information anyway. Yes, you can check a bank account, but it shouldn't be that big, you know, monstrous bank account that has all sorts of stuff hidden in it. That's maybe just talk a little bit about that and how that effect is when you do have a bank account that you can be checking, as well as 4 or 5 others that you might want to check just to get that feel that everything's on track.
That's right. And so I guess it's pinpointing what is the reason that you're looking at the bank account. Is it just to see what incomes come in, or is it to make a decision based on whether you have the money to pay an expense? So having that one account is actually never going to give you the right answer. Yes, you'll be able to see the income coming in, but then, you know, that big, you know, monthly amount goes out that you forgot about because it's on a direct debit and that sort of thing. So, you know, looking at it at 11 a.m., you think you can make a decision based on that. And then, you know, at 1 p.m., you're like, oh, okay, no. So Profit First, when that's implemented, you can actually just look at the income account.
Yes.
You can say, okay, yeah, I've been paid, and it's not going to go anywhere because its sole purpose is to hold your income.
Yeah.
And that's the same with your expense account. If you want to make a decision based on, you know, whether you have the funds in the bank to purchase a thing that you want to purchase.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm speaking very simplistically.
Yes.
You have to, for bigger things, you need to look at multiple things. But let's say, you know, you want to purchase a particular thing that day, you can look at that account and you can be sure that you have funds for that. Whereas, you know, you could be looking at one monstrous account where it seems like you've got a whole heap of money, but that may be going to the tax man.
You don't know whose money it is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's yours because it's in your bank account.
That's
but then
right.
2 weeks later or 2 days later, it's gone. Yeah, it's interesting because in our Join Your GPS coaching program, we kind of have 3 stages. We like to take a business so that it stabilizes first, and then it can go into growth mode and then into thrive mode. And I think that what happens with a lot of businesses that don't have this basic fundamental, let's say, transactional system in their business, they're almost forcing themselves to stay in survival mode all the time because it's always reactionary. Like, I've got this money coming in and going out, and there's only one sort of big bank account, and you're using that to drive your decisions from a day-by-day basis, as opposed to actually taking a step back and saying, right, we're going to get to where we want to go, but we're not going to do it unless we do it in a systematic way, and we need to get to the business to be thriving, rather than me just sort of surviving every day, looking at this one account. That kind of fits in with the whole methodology, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's what I tend to talk about is it's almost like, even in established business, it's like an addiction to startup, where we think, you know, we've got to stay here, we're just going to keep building, and we just got to do that, and because you don't have the right information to support you in your decisions to go into that growth and thrive phase that you're talking about.
Yes.
And it's having that at your hands in an easily accessible way that makes sense, that is going to assist in that change.
So this is like with a lot of business owners, and particularly a lot of people in our industry, we come from the trade. You know, we're tradies, we're cabinet makers or joiners, and we started a business X number of years ago. And we never really added any more stuff to our kit bag, our knowledge and our skills about how to run a business. So to me, this is like one added piece of the puzzle to business acumen that a business owner needs.
Absolutely.
To take their financial department within their business to that next level. And without this sort of additional knowledge and skill and implementation, you're always going to stay at a certain level in business because the business can't grow past what its capabilities and its knowledge is.
Correct.
That resides within the human brain running it. So it is systematic, isn't it? What you're saying is you're putting in a better system.
Absolutely. It's very much based on a system, but it's working within the behavior that we have as human beings. We can't, that's why people find it so difficult to, lose the weight and that sort of thing, because it's not all about willpower. It's about having the right system to assist us as humans who like to, and with Parkinson's law, who like to use what we have available.
Yeah, I like the analogy of the toothpaste.
Yes.
I use the toilet paper analogy a lot as well. If you could have a toilet paper dispenser that only ever gave you 3 sheets,
yes,
that would be forcing frugality and would also create creativity. Most joiners like that analogy, but we'll stick with the toothpaste one for now. So that's fantastic. Is there anything in addition that we haven't covered, Laura, that you can think of? There was a question here about, is Profit First only for business? I'm not really sure what the basis.
Okay, so I get that question a lot. Okay. So Profit First is known for businesses in terms of, having the income, expenses and that sort of thing. But the one thing that I tend to talk about a lot is that you can have a really successful business, but if your personal finance is not under control, it affects your business. Yeah. So it's not 2 separate pigeonholes, they work together. And that's where the owner's pay comes in. That's where it comes to people maybe taking money out of their business because they need it for their personal life and that sort of thing. And so Profit First can also be implemented on a personal level. So it would be, looking at, well, what do you need per month and what are the bills, and separating out different accounts for those things so that you have the same control in your personal, and you'll probably find you have a lot more money left in your business because of that.
That's a really interesting analogy. Like, it's not just about business, because everybody has a personal life that they have to manage their own money in as well, right?
Correct.
So you could, you could manage your money really well in business, but spend it all personally, and you always need more money. Well, that's no good either, is it? So
correct.
So is that something that if someone was on board with in business, the Profit First professional or coach they got on board with would help them as well in their personal?
Yeah, so not every single Profit First professional works with personal, but more and more, like majority of them that I speak to are definitely saying the same thing as me, that you can't look at one half of the picture, especially if and again, it's my bookkeeping hat that comes on. If the business owner is taking money out of the business or spending business funds on personal stuff and then paying themselves, well, then that's going to affect everything.
Yes.
So yes, it's definitely something that a Profit First professional can assist with.
That's really, really cool. I hadn't ever thought about it from that perspective. Thanks for that.
No worries.
And I would assume that, as most businesses do, they either have a bookkeeper, or if they get on board with me, they're going to almost be twisted arm to get a bookkeeper. But somebody's got to be doing the books, right?
Yes.
So I would imagine that essentially one of your professionals comes in and works directly with that bookkeeper, and just sort of helps them get those systems in place and working properly.
That's right. And so it's not necessary that you need a Profit First professional who's also a bookkeeper. Right. That's great if that's what you're after. But like, if you have an existing bookkeeper that you're really happy with, as long as they're open to working with a Profit First professional, then yes, we come in and we work with your existing team to implement Profit First and make it as easy as possible for everyone.
And I guess from the accountant's point of view, most accountants are just going to take, the financials as they're put into the books anyway, and say, okay, well, we'll work with that. From that perspective, it doesn't really affect the accountant in any way, shape, or form, does it? Because we're not asking to do anything differently.
That's right. They're just transfers between accounts a lot of the time, and whatever you'd pull out anyway to pay yourself is what would be recorded that way. Yeah. Same with your expenses. So the actual profit and loss and balance sheet and that sort of thing doesn't change for the accountant.
Yeah, cool. Okay, well, I think I've exhausted all my questions. I love getting on board with it, and I think for some of my clients that have done it and are doing it right now, they've certainly seen a massive, massive change. And I'd like to get everybody on board, to be honest with you, because I can't see why not.
Absolutely.
So getting in touch either with the people in my group, you can either come directly through me and I'll direct you to Laura, or like Laura said, what's the website? You might want to just mention the website.
Sure. So it's profitfirstaustralia.com.au.
Okay, that's easy.
Yep.
Well, that's fantastic, Laura. I really, really, really appreciate you taking the time today, and I'm glad you're better.
Yes, thank you. And sorry again for, cancelling last minute, but you really would not have heard a word that I said. So thank you.
No one wants to listen to me ramble on all day long.
Absolutely. So yeah, reach out if anyone has any questions. We've also got Profit First Professionals Australia Facebook page as well. So if you want to, ask a question there, we can, connect you or with a Profit First professional or a resource. But definitely, there's no excuse not to implement Profit First.
None whatsoever. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
I'll just give everybody an opportunity to ask a question. We've got a number of people on the line right now watching, and I'll give you a couple of minutes just to ask any questions that we haven't covered yet, something that's occurred to you. Feel free to type it in the box and let us know. Give you another couple of seconds. Are you going to WISA this year, Laura? I imagine you're probably not going to the cabinet making and joinery trade show in Sydney next week.
No, not this year. I'm actually going to Perth next week. I'm holding that's the other thing, is that we hold Profit First catch-ups around Australia for business owners and other Profit First professionals to come and connect and ask questions and share experiences. So I'll be doing that next week.
So you formed a community where people can join.
Yes.
That's really important, because other people can ask people within the group questions. There's a lot of value in that on itself.
Yes.
Fantastic. I think we've covered all bases because there's no questions.
Yes.
Good job.
Oh, well done. High five.
Excellent. Okay. Well, we'll end it with a thanks. You did a great job. I really appreciate it. And
thank you. And any questions, feel free to send through an email or get in contact through Bruce or myself, and we'll help you out.
Awesome. All right, Laura.
Thank you, everyone.
Shortly, everybody, have a great weekend, and thanks for attending. We're going to sign off. Bruce from the Joinery Coach with Laura Elkaslassy from Profit First. Have a great weekend. See you soon.